right, so something I want to get into with you is time management, because I mean, coming from someone who is currently not great at time management, it's something that's just kind of self-serving, more so for me than I'm sure there are a lot of you out there that get benefit out of this. But to give some context for why you specifically can talk about time management is because you were a college student. You just graduated college this year, but for the last 4 years you've been in college, you were also performing like 30 shows a month.
And I was a full-time RA.
Yeah, and so you're taking 18 credits a semester, plus a full-time RA, plus doing 30 shows a month on average, pretty much, sometimes more than that, and you still graduated with like a 3.8 GPA.
Yeah.
So there's no way you would have been able to do that and create the successful business that is now thriving since you've graduated from college without having to figure out how to manage time. I mean, so you mentioned something to me yesterday, something about the 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
So explain what the 4 quadrants is.
You know what's funny is what you said about what all those things I've done. And so for me, the part that I'm most proud about that is the part that I did all that and was still able to create awesome relationships with my friends and, at the time in my...
Yeah, and work-life balance and how do we balance relationships and performing life is something we're going to get into in another video too, for sure.
Yeah, because I'm not so as proud as that I have a 3.8 GPA. It's like, hey, I did all these things and also lived a fairly normal life.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous time management. I don't know necessarily how I did it, but I did hear this that I think spoke really true. Sometimes you do things and then you hear somebody explain them, you say, that's what it is, that's what I do. There's a sneeze coming. You ready?
Nope.
Don't say it, please. What was that? Whoa.
That sounded canned. That sounded like you planned that.
I did. I got another one. Okay, so 4 quadrants. 4 quadrants. That did sound canned, I swear it was.
I did. A little over dramatic.
My roommate, my housemate, Noah Clark, he's actually working in ministry right now. He's doing campus ministry. And he recommended a book that he had to read for his job called First Things First, I think is the name of the book.
That sounds familiar.
First Things First. Okay. I wish I knew who wrote it. I'm sorry. But in the book, they talk about the 4 quadrants. This is a long conversation. I'm going to shorten it up.
Yeah, give me a synopsis of it.
Yeah, you should really be spending most of your time in specific quadrants. And so quadrant number 1, imagine a matrix, right?
Right.
It's urgency and importance. The first quadrant is urgent and important. What things do you need to take care of right now because they are serious, they are urgent, and they are important? An example is you're driving down the road, you get a flat tire. Hey, you should probably take care of that right then and there. I don't know what else you'd be doing. Urgent, important. You break your leg. Boom, go to the hospital. We're sick right now. Me, my health is kind of urgent and important, right? In a way. Number 2, quadrant 2 is what is important but not urgent. This is things like emails. These are incredibly important that I respond to my clients. I literally don't have a career if I don't respond to these, but they're not necessarily urgent. Now, quadrant 2 can become urgent if you don't take care of them in a quick enough span of time.
Right.
Or maybe my cold is quadrant 2. Right now, it's important, but it's not urgent. But if I'm just like going out, if I'm not sleeping and I'm shoveling dirt in my mouth, I could get very sick, and that will become quadrant 1, right? Yeah. So emails are a good example of that. Quadrant 3 is what is urgent but not important. A sale at the supermarket, right? Like, hey, I'm going to miss out on getting $2 off ground beef if I don't go tonight. But you know what? That's not really that important to me.
Yeah.
And then the 4th quadrant is not important, not urgent. Watching Netflix, hanging out with friends, depending on how you view that.
Right.
For me, I consider the gym quadrant 2. But some people would consider that quadrant 4. You can decide what piece of your life fit in these quadrant pieces. Most of your time should be spent in quadrant 2 during the workday so that you can avoid being in quadrant 1. If you're in quadrant 1 a lot, doing a lot of urgent and important things, which I was in college a lot, there was a lot of times I was waking up at 3 a.m. going, I have a paper due at 7. And spending a lot of my time in quadrant 1, I realized, looking back on it, if I would have just been a little bit better about studying 20 minutes a day, I wouldn't have had to be urgently cramming the night before a test. Mm-hmm. So if you can focus on those things that you don't necessarily have to do right away and not procrastinate, spend time here to avoid them being in quadrant 1, that's awesome. You're going to feel fulfillment out of being able to do things that are urgent but not important, like going to a concert or going to a sales supermarket to get a deal, and then also being able to watch Netflix hang out with your friends. but everything kind of centers around quadrant number 2 in my life. I imagine for most people, if you take care of those, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, but the key is to take care of them. Don't keep pushing them off. Until it gets to the point where they're in quadrant 1, and now you have now 90% of the things you need to get done are in quadrant 1. Right?
Create rules. Here's a great rule: if you know that something's going to take less than 2 minutes, drop everything you're doing and take care of it right then and there. That's a rule I always follow, and it takes discipline. But I know now if something takes less than 2 minutes, I'm just going to do it right away.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it all the time, but I've set this rule for myself. It's like a goal. So I do take care of it. The other thing is, in quadrant 2, you don't have to do it all yourself. Delegate and automate. Automate as much as you can. If there's something that you're doing, if you're noticing you're typing the same email all the time, or you're having the same phone call all the time, or same text conversation, automate. If you've done something more than 6 times, that's a sign you should automate it. Okay, because it's going to happen a 7th time.
Yeah.
If you cannot automate that, delegate it. If you cannot delegate or automate, which most performers, it's probably just going to be their show and creating. That's where you need to be.
Yeah, so. And this is not something we'll get into, but you have an assistant that helps you with the emails and phone calls and following up and on leads and that sort of thing. Which is
too.
great.
It's important I get back to people who DM me and reach out to me, and she actually does a lot of the like PR type stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Any other advice on like systems or anything of? Because it's great to have this knowledge, like you said, but like the rule of hey, like that's a great rule. I mean, under 2 minutes, go ahead and just get it done. Anything else like that?
It's just discipline.
It's just
discipline.
Over again,
Like don't procrastinate. It's so easy, but
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, when you sit down at the computer to make yourself work, then you'll feel like doing work. It's funny how that works, but if you make yourself work, you'll feel like doing work. It's very rare that I sit down on my computer, send one email, and get off. I usually sit down on my computer, say, I'll just send one, and then I get through my whole email list, and
Yeah. Now too, for me, it's constant. If I'm not filming, I'm editing, right? Or I'm answering emails or sending emails off to clients. And so for me, it's figuring out specific times of the day that I put certain things in, right? So like I typically wake up at like 5 or 6, and then from 6 to 8 is my own personal time. I get things done for me during that time. But once 8 o'clock hits, from 8 until like 11:30 when I go to the gym, that is all work time. So that's I delegate certain things to get done during that time that are important to get done, right? So that's probably my quadrant 2 stuff, is those things they're not super urgent because I don't let things get too far down typically. This week has been a little crazy because this is new for us. But and then I go to the gym, I eat lunch, and then from like 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock is also work time again. So and that takes discipline too, to say like, okay, I'm going to sit at my computer from this time to this time. That's actually work.
Actually, great tip for when I was in college. I treated, even if I had a class that ended at noon, I didn't have class for the rest of the day, I tried my hardest to say, hey, from 9 to 5, I'm going to work. Whether that's business or schoolwork, I'm doing 9 to 5 working, and every day after 5, now I can call my girlfriend on the phone. Now I can see my friends go out to dinner.
Yeah, because the time will get away from you.
Yeah, it will.
Time will gone in a second.
This is a tip out of left field, but it sort of relates.
This will end on this.
Yeah. Look at who's in the circle that you want to be in. You should always surround yourself with people who are doing better than you. Look at those people and ask them, what are they doing with their time? Observe what they do with their time. Use your own discretion to find out if there's really people you want to look up to. Maybe some people that you do look up to don't manage their time well, but get a good pulse check on that. Like, what are the people that look at I look up to Elon Musk. I'm so interested in what this guy does with his time. Right now, I'm not in a circle, but I wish I could be. But find your friends who are successful performers, successful in whatever you do for a job, and just look at how they manage their time. That's a pretty good hint that hey, maybe you should adopt some of those principles. Yeah,
and actually on that note too, we can end sort of on this. One of the guys that we ran into last night though is at the event was very successful business owner,
right?
And we asked Chris asked him, what is it that, if you had any advice for people starting a business, and if you're a performer, you are a business owner, and what would you say? Just one thing. His immediate answer was systems. Need to put a system in place.
Systems and processes.
System and processes, which is exactly what this is. Figuring out which quadrant you're going to be in. Anything else real quick?
No.
That's it. All right.